The chase! Episode 16.
They played tag. There was a chase.
Cool.
Yep.
Alright, goodbye.
Bye.
What happened in the chase there?
So we opened up and we saw some Daleks. Oh shit.
Oh, that's right. We had a cliffhanger from last episode.
Yeah, we had a cliffhanger and it was like, oh fuck. Yeah. And we see that the crew is in time and space again. And there's a very tiny TARDIS and some sick piano jazz, which was a reoccurring thing throughout this entire episode. It was just like nice jazz stings, and it was just like, oh, okay, that's nice. That's actually kind of it's a little bit much with how much they used it, but it was nice. It was a nice change.
Yeah.
The Doctor is working on his space time visualizer that he got.
To space?
Yes. And mumbling about how Vicky needs to stop fucking whistling and being an annoyance. So she storms off, feeling annoyed. She also then comes up to Ian and asks what he's reading, and it's something about monsters from outer space, and he's like, this book isn't very believable. Haha.
Yep.
And then she, like, leans on his shoulder, and he's like, no, go the fuck away, like, you're being annoying. So she's like, I'm just such an annoyance. So she goes to Barbara and says that she's redundant and a useless of a person. And then she, like, sits on the bed and knocks over Barbara's tea onto what Barbara's doing, and Barbara's like, Vicky, why did you... This was a dress for you!
Vicky, you fucking useless bitch!
It's like, Vicky, you're not... Vicky, you useless cunt! Oh my god! So... The time-space thingy is working kind of, but it makes a bunch of noise, and it hurt not only my ears, but everyone on the crew's ears. And it apparently converts neutrons of light into energy because it records... Neutrons of light record history of what happened, and the time-space thingy basically is a TV to see those things, because everything is recorded in light neutrons.
Also known as Venderman's Law.
Yes. And
it's not a real thing. I don't think so.
And apparently Vicky's world was working on time television, apparently, at the same...
Vicky's world? You mean Vicky's time?
Yes.
Her world was Earth.
Fine. Was working on the time-space television at the time that she left, and they're like, I could have fixed it for you, and the Doctor was like, no, fuck off. And they go, okay. They ask Ian for an exact date, time, and location for something, and he's like, all right, I can think of something, and he gives something, and then they put a slab into the time-space TV, and it's Lincoln, and it's the Gettysburg Address being read. Wowee.
The Lincoln?
The Lincoln, Mr. Copper Penny himself.
Hat and everything?
No, he didn't have a hat.
Oh.
He took his hat off for the Gettysburg Address. What?
Did it get shot off?
No, that's not until the Ford Theater.
Oh. Okay.
Yes. And then the image kind of fizzes out, and then it's Barbara's turn to come up with a new one, and then she does, and they see Queen Elizabeth I and a dude talking, and then he brings up a second dude, and it's Shakespeare. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I've insulted you in the castle, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh no, I actually found it hilarious.
Yeah, but who is he talking to, dear?
Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh my god.
I said that, but alright. And she's like, well, why don't you make, like, a romance story? Because that seems like it'd be pretty good. And he's like, I will consider it. And then the other guy comes up and goes, hey, have you heard about Hamlet? And Shakespeare's like, it doesn't really feel like my sort of thing. And then he walks away and kind of does like a think moment. He's like, Hamlet, you say. And then it cuts. Because that's how Hamlet was made, I guess. Vicky decides to choose something and has 1965 come up. And she's watching the Beatles. Because of course she is. And this was filmed around the time of Beatlemania, so, like, I get it, but also I'm just sitting here like, And she calls it, what was it, classical music or something? Or something like that.
Yeah,
It's like,
classical music. She's like, I didn't know they played classical music, though.
mm-hmm. And me and Gabe had the whole conversation of, like, this was still kind of in their, like, poppy age. This was, like, the height of Beatles fever before they went and took a shit ton of drugs. So, you know. So they are about to materialize, and the doctor's like, turn off the machine. And Vicky, quote unquote, turns off the machine, but doesn't really. And they all head out. And outside is a desert. And there's 2 suns. And it's really hot.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Two bright suns.
Mm-hmm. They move very quickly. That is a key point here. But they don't think that there's too much to explore. So the doctor gives Ian a TARDIS magnet, which I believe points to the TARDIS at any given time.
Yeah.
Ah, I was right.
No.
No.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Vicky fucks off over the hill.
It basically does. It basically, like, it's basically a TARDIS compass.
Yeah, yeah. So Vicky fucks off over a hill to see if there's anything, and Ian follows her. And she trips over something, and it's weird and melted and wet and stinky, but at least it's not acid. Ha ha! But there's also a whole trail of blood leading away from all the creepy things. And they decide to follow the trail, and then suddenly a tentacle comes out of the sand. Oh.
Tentacles?
Oh, just one. Just one.
Okay.
Yeah. The doctor and Barbara are sunbathing and singing. And then Barbara suddenly hears the visualizer being on, and she's like, wow, that hurts my ears, and I'm going to go turn it off. I've had enough sun anyway. But Barbara can't seem to turn it off, and then she sees a whole bunch of Daleks talking and calls for the doctor, and we find out that the Daleks have made a time machine, and they have located the TARDIS, and the Daleks all leave, and the door closes behind them, sending them off into time and space. And the doctor's like, we have to leave right now, and not Vicky, and Barbara's like, wait, why? And they're like, this TV only shows the past! Meaning that it's already happened. Oh.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it only shows the past, so they realize, oh shit, they're already on their way.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Ian and Vicky are exhausted on top of a mountain and talk about wanting to go back. And then Ian suddenly finds a ring in the sand, and Vicky freaks out a little bit about it. About how, I'm trying to get this right. As a kid, she was near a castle, and there was a ring, and they said that if they pulled the ring, the drawbridge would drop, and something terrible would come out. So it was a horrible childhood experience that she remembers, and Ian's like, there's nothing around here to open, so should I pull it? And Vicky's like, yeah, sure, why not? So Ian pulls it, and he literally just rips it out of the sand. And then they go to walk away, and a door opens behind them. Oh. And
dun, dun, dun.
And Vicky goes down to check whatever it is down there, because they're curious as hell, of course, and there's apparently steps. We cut to Barbara yelling for them to come back so they can leave. And they don't hear them, and Ian and Vicky find some plush carpet and continue down the stairs, and then the door closes behind them. And a horrible tentacle octopus thing is in there with them. Because of course. And Barbara and the doctor are continuing to wander through now a sandstorm, lost entirely of where the TARDIS is, and collapse behind a rock.
No, it's alright. The doctor will just get the TARDIS Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. So they hide behind a rock to avoid being cold and the sand, which actually, you are actually supposed to do, if possible, in a sandstorm. Or an avalanche, actually, I believe. The next morning, everyone is awake and covered in sand, and the TARDIS is gone, and the entire landscape has changed. And the doctor realizes that he doesn't have another TARDIS magnet, which is fucking hilarious that he doesn't have 2.
Well, yeah, you'd expect him to have more than one.
You would think. And then they see a Dalek rising up out of the sand, and it sounds like it's coughing. And it's hilarious, and then that's where the episode ends.
Da-da.
Da-da.
Da-da-da-da. this is another one of those great episodes. Written by the same guy. I mean, it's a Dalek episode in the 60s, so it's written by the same fucking man.
Yeah.
Because he owns those creatures. So, written by Terry Nation, and he took a page from when he wrote The Keys of Marinus. You probably realize, because this episode is, like, kind of similar to it, in that every episode is, like, a mini story in a different arc going to different places.
Yeah.
All under a framework of a larger story.
Yes.
So, fun fact about the Beatles clip in this. So, it's kind of ironic considering how many episodes of Doctor Who have been lost to time. The performance that they took the clip from, the only surviving footage of it is in this episode.
Oh.
And even funnier is the fact that they lost the licensing restrictions to it, so it's actually edited out of every DVD release from that's not in the UK or Australian region. So it's like, that's fucking dumb and hilarious.
Yes.
Anyway, what happens in the next
you are the
episode?
only person that has video of this thing, but you can't own it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Anyway, what happens in the next episode?
What's the next episode called? Because I know what it's called. It's called the death. It's called the Death of Time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why would they kill time, dear?
I don't know. Why would they kill time?
What did time ever do to you?
I'm not sure, but there is another smooth piano intro. Smooth piano intro. And Barbara and the Doctor spot more Daleks everywhere, and they're looking for the TARDIS with a seismic okay, I wrote seismic search dues, but I believe it's supposed to be like a tool, and they will kill all the humans that they find, and they're going to leave Fishy, getting up to leave, and there's a fishy man standing across from them, and there's... Sorry, I'm trying to fucking read my fucking notes.
You can't read your own notes, can you?
I can't, can I? Getting up to leave, there's fishy men standing across from them, from Barbara and the Doctor, right? But then we cut to Ian and Vicky, and there's also more octopuses in every room that Ian and Vicky go to, because they're running away. But then also we cut back to the Daleks and find that they have found the tracks of humans, but then they see what I called at the time a cactus man walking towards them and instantly shoot him. But he was apparently a resident of the planet and is just living there. And the fishermen talk to the Doctor and Barbara and say that this was a vast ocean, but now it's a desert, and they're called the Iridians. I hate that
Iridians,
name.
yes, because they live in an arid planet.
Yes, Scam, I get it.
Get it? Do
But
you
why?
get it?
But why were they named the Iridians before it was a desert?
Fucking irony.
They're now land-dwelling, and there's a thing called the Mire Beast that lived in the slime below the ocean, which is now in the airlocks that go to where their underground city is. And that's what's chasing Ian and Vicky currently. But the airlocks are all to be exploded, but that might be where Ian and Vicky are, so they're like, we should figure that out. And Barbara stands up and, like, tries to stop them, and everyone's, like, hissing at her, because they're, like, thinking she's going to attack them or something. And they're like, there's no time! And then they look at the sun and go, there's some time, let's go. And they go. And then we find Vicky being choked out by a Mire Beast, and the explosion actually goes off anyway before everyone can get there, and it knocks Ian out, or kills him. Either or. We're not sure at this point. I also just realized Ian gets knocked out 3 times in this episode.
Yeah, he does. I quite a number of those times are due to other people.
So Barbara arrives at the gate to the city / airlock and offer to go inside, and they open it up, hop in, and they're like, alright, let's go find everybody and the TARDIS. And actually, the Daleks have found the TARDIS, and it's under the sand.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. But Barbara is very, very worried about her boyfriend, but the Doctor is fine. And so Barbara tries to take a nap, and the Iridians come down to talk to them and go, hey, the tunnels are blocked off to stop the advance of the Mire Beasts, and hey, Barbara's asleep, so we're going to talk to you and say that the leader of the Daleks have told the Iridians to hand over y'all, or the city's going to be destroyed. And at this point, I was like, what's with all the new stings that were happening? There were quite a few new ones this time around. So Vicky...
I'll get to it.
Vicky comes out and sees the TARDIS being dug up by two Iridians that were being forced by the Daleks, and then they try to run off and get their insides microwaved. And then the Daleks try to start to microwave the TARDIS, but it doesn't really do anything, so they just wait for the prisoners to come out. Because they made a deal with the Iridians. So they're like, alright, well, we have the TARDIS and we have, the Doctor and everybody coming. So we should be good. And Vicky starts to walk back into the mines, going side to side to side to side. And Barbara finally wakes up from her nice nap. And the news...
Little nappy.
And then the news from the elders is that the Daleks are going to go ahead and take them. Because that's what they decided to do. And... apparently that's utter bullshit, we all know it, and Ian has awoken now and found himself arrested by a dead octopus, but the Iridians find Vicky and grab her. And the wall behind the Doctor and Barbara keep jiggling and dropping sand all over them, and they're like, oh, that's weird. And Vicky mentions that she found the TARDIS, and then the Iridians come after them, and so they can give them to the Daleks so they don't die. But then suddenly a tentacle comes out of the rock and grabs Barbara. And so they all try to fight it, and then it captures an Iridian instead. And Barbara tries to help them, actually, but the Doctor pulls her away, and he's dead. And Ian is then seen crawling up towards the TARDIS exit that Vicky found. And another Dalek comes up and mentions that the prisoners have been lost, and the Iridians now only have an hour to find them before they blow up their city. And then Ian meets up with the crew, but he has a plan. And he steals Barbara's cardigan again. This is like the third time.
Yeah, well, he literally goes, can I borrow your cardigan? She goes, oh no, not again.
Mm-hmm. No, my nice cardigan. And they make a trap with the Doctor's coat and her cardigan and some sticks and sand so that the Dalek would try to go over it thinking that there's not a step there because they basically hid that step under the jackets, and it would fall out from under him and make him trip down the stairs, hee. And then and then everyone kind of sneaks out except for the Doctor and Ian, and they hide behind two hills going, yoo-hoo! Woohoo! Hey, you! Hey! Woohoo! Woohoo! And to get the Daleks' attention, and then we we see a silhouette of a Dalek moving, and then it just falls over. And it was hilarious. And the other three Daleks have shown up now, but everyone is in the TARDIS, and it whooshes away. And they are apparently to be pursued through all of eternity, says the Daleks, and then they follow them. And that's the episode.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, okay. I'm pretty sure you saw it. Actually, I don't think you did actually watch it. But the
tricycles?
The scene... Well, no, not the tricycles. That's kind of what they are inside.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene where the Dalek comes out of the sand physically wasn't possible to do because of the way the sand would have created a suction with the sand as it went up, so it would have been physically impossible. So what they literally did was just get a small figure of a Dalek that they made, pile it on a table with sand and slowly push it up, and it's so adorable.
I did not notice that. I actually thought it was a real-sized Dalek. That's lovely.
They do a really good job of keeping it pretty well done.
Because the Dalek was far enough away from the camera in perspective, the sand grains basically didn't look big enough to me, so I was like, okay, yeah, that works.
So, also, you know how the Beatles appeared in a clip?
Mm-hmm.
They were actually originally
Wait, the Beatles were in this episode?
They were actually going to be in the episode themselves.
Oh.
Performing as, like, old men in the 21st century, as, like, like themselves as old men. But their manager didn't want them to do it, so they didn't. It would have been fucking great, though.
It would have been.
It would have been amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So, you notice the incidental music, and, like, I recognize it immediately as Dudley Simpson because there's a lot of xylophones.
Yes, there are so many xylophones.
That man loves his fucking xylophones,
I
love him for it.
He does.
He was only hired to do the incidental music for it because the guy they originally wanted didn't want to do it. Like, he wasn't available, so it's like, oh man. But also at the same time, oh hell yeah.
Oh hell yeah, xylophones.
Also, the original inhabitants of Iridius. They were meant to be, like, ugly, hunchbacked creatures, but, you know, budgets. Budgets, you know.
I mean, their bald caps were already coming up, so I can't even imagine the hunchback creatures.
True. So other changes from the original script in the space-time visualizer was, in the original timeline story, the crew were to witness Shakespeare discussing with his wife the possibility of allowing Francis Bacon to use his name on Bacon's plays, as well as a speech by Winston Churchill, and Ian and Vicky would see through the sands the vast underground Iridian city, and Ian and Barbara, yeah. So there were a whole heap of different, like, scenes that they wanted to put in the space-time. A lot of it budget, a lot of it just, like, they needed to only have a few in there at once.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want to put too many things in there, because otherwise it would just be, you know...
Yeah.
Then like, the entire thing would have just been fucking nothing but references. Anyway, next episode, what happens?
Well, it's a flight through eternity, and it's actually a pretty straightforward episode. There's a lot of little stories thrown together, so we can get through them pretty quickly. So everyone is excited and cheering on the ship that they're leaving, and Ian is finally taking care of his head. And they're like, we should never run into them ever again, haha. And the doctor's like, wait, no, we're gonna run into them again. Because they're following them. And we see the Dalek time machine, and it's kind of boring. And they're talking a lot about how close they are behind the TARDIS. Vicky gives Barbara a guava snack, which is something. And then we find out that the computer on the TARDIS takes 12 minutes to reorientate and recharge before they can take off again. So they have 12 minutes to do whatever they need to do, and then they can take off again and try to get away from the Daleks, continuing. And they realize that the TARDIS is slowing down and landing. And in the most amazing, unexpected place ever, they land on top of the Empire State Building in New York City.
Well, okay, I believe your reaction as soon as it was like, where are we? And then it cut to Lady Liberty, and your immediate reaction was, because you did not see it coming.
Okay, listen, first off, that's just how I laugh when something actually surprises me. Second off, fuck you. Third off, you can hear it in the commentary track. If that's your jam. So we see some people taking a tour of the Empire State Building, and they talk about how there's other buildings, like the Chrysler Building and the Hudson River. And the TARDIS lands in New York, and we see someone known that I called Mr. Alabama. Sees the TARDIS then, and he's like, oh, you're making one of the motion pictures. And Barbara's like, what year is it? And he's like, it's 1966, a year after they left. Which is like, whoa, that's fantastic.
No, it's not.
He said it was
1963 is when they left.
Oh, I thought they left 1965.
Nope,
huh.
1963.
Okay. Well, it's apparently not a year after they left. And Vicky's like, oh, yes, it's ancient New York. And Alabama's very confused, like, what the fuck are you talking about? This isn't ancient. Are y'all trying to fuck with me? And he's, like, tried to look inside the TARDIS a little bit, and he's like, y'all are gonna be real cramped in there, blah, blah, blah. And I had the idea that I would love a companion that is an idiot fucking hick that is just amazed by everything as a companion. And they don't take him with them, but I love the idea of it. And
I'm telling you right now, that idea would wear thin real quick.
To you, maybe. And he wants to take a photo of them, so he goes to go pick up his camera, turns around, and the TARDIS is gone! And then
Oh
no. And then the Daleks arrive, and Mr. Alabama's gonna die! And the Dalek asks to know where the crew is, and Alabama turns around again to get his camera. And he's like, they just left. Yeah, your silly movie-making things, they're gone. And he turns around to get his camera to take a photo of them, and then the Daleks are gone. And then he's like, I know you're here, and like trying to touch the box. And the tour comes around again, and they see Mr. Alabama acting like an idiot. And he gets the police called on him, which feels a little weird in this day and age, but, you know, whatever. The Daleks...
It was the 60s. If someone looked like they were having mental problems, you called the police.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what you do nowadays.
Also,
apparently.
if someone looked black, you called the police in the 60s. What's your point?
Well, you do that now as well, apparently.
Yes. Nothing has changed. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just doesn't feel great. Anyway.
Yeah, ain't it fucking great? Love reality. Anyway.
Hey, Cab. The Daleks are still chasing after the TARDIS, and suddenly the TARDIS is landing again. But this time, they're landing on a ship miniature, because of course they are. And they land on the boat, and Barbara loves sailing ships, which has never been brought up before. And she loves sailing ships, so she goes to look out at the ocean. And then one of the crew members comes out, and she's thought to be a stowaway, so she's caught by him. And he's like, I see what you're saying. Like, you just arrived here. Ha ha ha. I get it. Like, you'll see what we do to stowaways. And then Vicky comes out and sees this and grabs a fucking wooden club pin from the sail. I don't know exactly what they're called.
Wooden club pin?
It's like the pin, I don't know what it's called. And goes to help her and clubs the dude over the head. And then Ian comes over to help them, and Barbara's like, oh, I hear someone coming. And she's like, oh, Ian! And then Vicky fucking clubs Ian over the head.
Yeah, and Ian's knocked out for the second time.
Yeah. And then the Daleks land on the ship after they leave, and everyone comes up, and they're asking about the crew of the TARDIS. Everyone gets really scared, and jumps off the ship, because superstition, and etc., etc. So the ship's abandoned, and I don't know history. And even one of the Daleks jumps off the ship to follow someone, and they're like, ah! And then Ian is feeling better, and the TARDIS is off again, but they're still being followed. But then they find out that the Daleks are actually closing in on them, and the 12 minutes is now down to 8, so they have less time. And then that was the episode.
And then it's, oh no.
Oh no. Oh. Remind me what the name of that ship was, Cam?
The Mary Celeste.
Yes.
Which, if anyone remembers what the Mary Celeste is, it's a famous ship where it was abandoned at sea. Like, the people on it were just gone.
Yeah.
No one ever knew why. It turns out it's Daleks.
I feel like this entire podcast is just me coming to terms with the fact that my history, knowledge of history is shit.
I mean, you're gonna have to go through this knowing that, like, Doctor Who's version of history is kind of shit in a lot of places as well.
Yes, but I also have American history in my head.
They made a joke about Columbus in this.
Yes, they did.
They're like, go on, Christopher Columbus. Ian calls Vicky Christopher Columbus. That's when we made the joke. We were like, Vicky's like, there's probably a city just over that dune. And then she's like, I'm going to go after it. And then Ian's like, oh, wait up, Christopher Columbus. And then I went, oh no, Vicky, what are you doing to that city? Oh no.
We did.
Because it's, again, Doctor Who is like, very white.
Yes. I guess I just mean, like, in the regard of, like, I just don't know things from history. I didn't know the name of the ship. I was never told this story.
I mean, to be fair, it's not exactly any more like a really popular story.
Okay, well, let me counter this by saying I didn't know the day that What's-His-Face in the French Revolution, like, got fucked up.
Yeah, but again, it's not something that you, like... It's not something you're, like, really gonna remember exactly. Like, kids who are studying the French Revolution, they're gonna remember that. Also, the fact you didn't remember Robespierre's name is kind of telling, though, against my argument.
Yes, I'm basically just saying that the American school system has failed me. And that is understandable, because it's very bad. Anyway, what's our cool facts for today, Gamb?
You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I knew that. Next?
You're also a piece of shit.
I mean, I didn't know that one, but it seems pretty obvious now that I'm thinking about it.
You're also a piece of shit.
That one just hurt.
So this is one of the first and kind of few stories to include, like, humor with the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
The Daleks don't really have much humor within themselves. They're kind of like the droids from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have much humor, but then sometimes they do. Like, in this one, you have, like, a stammering Dalek who can't do simple mental arithmetic. You have Daleks nodding their eye stalks up and down to confirm a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, like, the one sassy Dalek that's like, he's talking to another Dalek. He's like, you will wait here and stay at your post while I go look for the others. And then the other one doesn't respond. He turns away to start going, turns back and goes, do you understand? And the one goes, yes, I understand. Mm-hmm. Like, there's little bits of humor that honestly I wish they kept throughout the series, but they don't.
Having Doctor Who be slightly more lighthearted is nice.
It is, and it gets a lot more lighthearted, but when we get to the 70s, we get a lot more political. A lot more political.
Of course we do.
Well, it's not, like, terrible.
No, it's the 70s. Of course we do.
Yeah. A lot of environmentalism.
Yep.
A lot of environmentalism.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is the first use of the Dalek crying of exterminate. Previously, they mentioned extermination, and they ordered someone to exterminate someone, but, like, this is the first time it's used as, like, an exclamation or, like, a catchphrase.
Yeah.
They also have a mini sort of... I don't know if it's written here, if I can find it, but they have, like, a mini catchphrase of, like, victory and exterminate, and, like... It kind of evolves over time. They try to make it something, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, what happens in the next episode?
Well, it's a journey into terror, and we see a very... What? That's what the episode was called.
Yeah, and I said it was smooth.
Yeah, we see a very scary mansion setting full of dry ice and thunder, and they're like, ooh, this has stairs, so we can win. And bats and scary walls. And Vicky is an absolute little shit, and I love her to death at this point. And they start to head upstairs to check things out.
I'm really upset that you like Vicky, because, like, the majority of her episodes are missing.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, well. Anyway, keep going.
She's kind of like the little kid that I sort of like. She doesn't have a really, like, a set age. Like, we tried to find it, and she doesn't really seem to have a set age, but...
Yeah, I think she's meant to be, like, around Susan's age. So, like, around 14, 16.
She seems more childlike than Susan did, to me. Which is nice. So... They start to head upstairs because the house is creepy and haunted, and the women stay behind because they're scared. Ha ha. And there's nothing at all to be scared about, though, even though Barbara is obviously going to shit herself. And they kind of decide to look around and see what they can find. And they walk over to the fireplace, and the fireplace has eyes.
And that's when we realized that they were on the set of Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Mm-hmm. They have to go find the silver monkey.
Mm-hmm. The Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
The Shrine of the Silver Monkey. The Blue Barracudas.
Keep going.
So they start walking around a little bit more, and there's a chest, and they decide to open it. And apparently it has nothing in it, but there is a boom shadow that comes across it, and I'm just like, alright. And then suddenly a skeleton drops from the ceiling on a string, and it's okay. And then we see a ghost on screen, sort of a doll girl thing hovering around Ian. And we're not really sure what's going on, and then the doctor sees a body on an examining table, and he's like, I want to investigate that. And it's Frankenstein's monster. 'Cause, have you gotten it yet? Have we gotten it yet? Well, if you haven't, he sits up to scare them, and then just goes back to sleep. And then with Barbara and Vicky, they meet Dracula, of course. And he says, hi, I'm Dracula, and then walks back into the door that he just came from.
Yep.
Do you get it yet?
I didn't get it. What is it?
Don't worry about it yet. Vicky is gone now, and there's like this huge scream from her, and then Barbara gets put in a turny-spinny bookcase thing, and gets spun around. And the doctor's like, this is a nightmare house inside of a human mind, because that's all that could make sense. And then down at the bottom of the stairs, they find that the girls are gone, of course, because the girls are always gone. And then suddenly the Dalek ship lands, and they start looking for all the humans. And there's only 2 Daleks that go out at this point, and a door opens, and the Dalek asks about the time travelers, and Ian drops a door on them near Frankenstein, and then they sick Frankenstein on him, and then they sick Dracula on the other one. And a Dalek tries to zap Dracula, and nothing comes from it, because it's Dracula. And Frankenstein also comes up and starts to rip a Dalek apart, and, like, literally lift it and, like, throw it and shit, and it's hilarious.
Pretty dope. Pretty dope.
So everyone jumps in the TARDIS and starts to whoosh, whoosh, whoosh away, but, Vicky's left behind! Oh no, and then runs to the other time machine of the Daleks to hide in. And then we see that it was apparently a house of horrors. It was a house of horrors.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to it in a second.
And the doctor's machine is apparently unsure. He's unsure when the thing that he's working on will be ready to try to stop the Daleks. And then they realize Vicky's gone. And we shoot to the Dalek plan, which is apparently to reproduce the Doctor as a clone. And one Dalek thinks he hears something, but doesn't find Vicky at all. And we do see her, however, trying to hide on the ship, and even use like the radio to be like, TARDIS, come in, TARDIS, please help me. And nothing really works of it. And then she sees the clone of the Doctor, and everyone gets sad. Because everyone in the TARDIS is also sad. There's apparently no way to go back and get Vicky, even if they repair anything. So they decide to just try to steal the Daleks' time machine instead, that can go to any time and any place. Because, of course. And the Dalek that goes, is pretty good right now. Because that's when he shows up. But the clone is pretty much done and ready. And the quote-unquote Doctor clone comes out. They're like, yes, it's an exact replica, and it looks nothing fucking like him.
Hey. If they used the same lens they used for the Web Planet on this, it would have looked identical.
Probably. So the crew has landed in a swamp-looking thing, and everything seems to look alive. And the Daleks have activated their robot doctor, and when they zoom in, on his face, he's actually the Doctor, and he's like, yes, my plan is to separate and destroy. And we kind of noticed that there was a lot of voiceover in this one for some reason, but then that's where the episode ended.
Like, I don't understand why they had the body double for this. Like,
yeah, I don't either.
It's not like the Doctor is also on screen at the same time.
Yeah, like, there are very specific scenes that they could have just had the Doctor, but I don't know. So, one thing that bothered me about this part, it was a haunted house, right? So it was fake. But the Daleks literally shot their microwave laser beams at both Frankenstein and Dracula and Ghost Lady, and it did nothing to them, even though they were real people because it was a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Okay. Well, we're at the end of the episode, so I'll explain it anyway. Mm-hmm. So, originally, Terry Nation wanted that idea that it wasn't a haunted house, it actually was the concept of, basically the essence of a haunted house, all the nightmares, all the evil in the world. He literally wanted it to be, like, the concept inside someone's head. He wanted them to land there. Because it's like, well, they think the Daleks can't land there, but the Daleks are a nightmare too. So they can go there. But Verity Lambert at the last minute was like, that's a little bit too abstract for a show like this. How about we just, make it an actual haunted house and, like, have a little joke? And basically he had no choice.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So, also in that whole thing, that whole sequence, there were so many things planned to be in there, but then didn't because of time and budget. So, Baron Frankenstein was also meant to be in there, but wasn't. But the grey lady who's there, the one who goes,
yeah,
she was a literal last minute, like, decision.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. The monster for Frankenstein's monster was based upon the original design that was made for the Boris Karloff film. So it's like they were literally just modeling it off those original films, which hadn't really come out that long ago. So it kind of made sense. Anyway. What happens in the next episode?
There's another episode?
There's another 2 episodes at least.
Oh. Well, this one's called The Death of Doctor Who.
Ah, shit.
Ah, fuck.
It's the end of the episode.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a whole bunch of fucking voiceover, by the way. And they come out, and there's a whole bunch of tentacle-looking trees, and apparently it's a living fungus around them, and the fungus are all moving into them and closing in around them. And the ground's all foggy, but then when something lights up and a light turns on, they get all scared and, like, try to run away from the fungus. And so they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Hey, look, there's a path of light over here. We should follow it. And they're like, all right, cool. So they do. And then the Daleks have landed, and they're like, okay, we're here, and we're going to kill any life form in front of us because we stopped giving a fuck. And
yeah.
The robot is to infiltrate, separate, and kill, apparently. And that is the whole plan of him. So while traversing through the forest, Vicky, because she was on the Dalek ship, if you do remember, is attacked by one of the fungus, and the crew has come to the end of their lights and stops and finds, like, a cave building structure and just kind of hangs out there. And it's apparently empty, even though, like, just like how every building they go into seems to be empty, and then suddenly they find a thing.
Have you got a problem with that?
A little bit. There's also weird metal weapons all around them, but actually it's just a really long cigarette lighter, which is something. And Barbara tries to shoot the lighter like a fucking machine gun, because of course she does. And and the doctor basically talks about how his machine can't work in a closed space for whatever reason, so they can't be near it. And then Vicky has found the TARDIS and the Road of Light and starts to follow it. And she is almost attacked by another fungusy thing and lets out a big ol' scream. And Barbara knows it's Vicky, but no one else seems to care what Barbara has to say. So they all go to get Vicky. And then we see Anti-Doctor pop up, and he goes to Barbara. And the Daleks are all being attacked by the fungus, too. But Ian and the Doctor...
Among Us.
The fungus among us. And then Ian and the Doctor find Vicky passed out on the ground. And they know that the Dalek time machine has arrived, because that's the only way Vicky could have come with them. Yeah. Barbara finds the Anti-Doctor and is excited, and he tells her that Ian is now dead. And Barbara needs to come with him so that maybe she can help him. And she's like, oh no, are you sure he's dead and he's not just maybe injured? And he's like, nope, he's dead. But maybe if you can do something. And so they all run out of the cave. And then the real Doctor and Ian and Vicky come back, and they drop off Vicky, and no one knows where Barbara is. And then Vicky wakes up and tells them that there's a robot of the Doctor. Oh, but if Doctor is with Ian, then he's got to be the real one. Oh, because that...
Yeah, that's kind of fucking flimsy, but... I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, in her logic, it makes sense, but also at the same time, it's like, it's not 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, no. Oh my god. The fake Doctor is still with Barbara, and is, of course, trying to kill her, because he fucks up saying something, I believe, or something to that effect, and...
Well, he said... Ian's about to kill the Doctor, and then the other Doctor goes to Vicky.
No, that was before that.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, this is when he's choking out Barbara.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got my scenes mixed up.
No, you're fine. Ian saves her, of course, and then both doctors... the fake Doctor kind of fucks off for a second, but then they, try to walk back to the cave, and both the real Doctor and the fake Doctor walk up at the exact same time. And they're like, I'm the real Doctor. It's like, no, you're not. I'm the real Doctor. You're the fake Doctor.
Which one do I shoot?
Which one do I shoot? We just don't know. And they take the side of one of the doctors that they think, and Ian's trying to fight with the other Doctor. And then the fake Doctor pretty much says, hey, Susan, something, and then Vicky's like, fucking what?
Well, and he goes, Susan, you shouldn't watch this. This isn't gonna look good. And then Barbara turns and is like, wait a fucking minute.
Yeah. And they're like, hold up. So they're like, oh, wait, no. You're the fake Doctor. Ian, stop trying to kill the real Doctor. And
my favorite part in that is, while Ian's fighting the real Doctor, that Ian's like, how do we know you're real? And the Doctor's just like, it doesn't fucking matter what I say. It seems you're already gonna kill me anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And then they kill the robot Doctor, and the real Doctor goes, wow, that man needs a doctor. Okay, it wasn't that funny.
I mean, to be fair, they do make that quip quite a lot throughout the show, but they kind of they kind of make it more in in a humorous sort of way of someone called for the Doctor, not in a cool action one-liner.
Yeah. I mean, it was very one-linery.
It was very much a one-liner, because he pulls out, the wire that's keeping the robot alive. You make sure the robot's dead, and then he's like, somebody needs a doctor. It's like,
all right, Winnie the Pooh, calm down. So, they kill the robot doctor, and everyone is safe now, and they go to sleep in the cave.
End of the episode.
What? No.
No, that's it. That's the end of all the episode. Nothing else happens.
Oh, okay, well. So a camera comes down from the ceiling to look at them, and I was like, oh no, it's the evil doctor again, isn't it? But then everyone's awake, and they notice that when they walk outside and it's no longer dark, there's a city above them, and it's fancy and pretty and nice and clean and lovely. And they're like, okay, well, why don't we head to the city? But the Daleks are all now assaulting the cave, so there's no way to get out. And they're like, maybe if we climb that cliff face. And he's like, no, it's too sharp. And then Ian and Barbara and Vicky start talking about how maybe if... God. Maybe if the doctor pretends to be the robot doctor, he can tell them a lie that...
No, well, they like jokingly say it, and then they're all immediately like, no, that's such a stupid plan, and they're like discussing what to do, while the doctor just walks out and starts doing it.
Yeah. And he goes out to act like the robot doctor and throw them off the trail, and then it literally doesn't work.
They literally just not even for a second believe him.
Yeah, they're like, where are the prisoners? Like, I killed them. We can go. And they're like, you're lying. You're not the real doctor, robot, whatever thing. And he's like, oh, fuck. So they're in the cave. And they're like, oh, God, what are we going to do? And they're like, all right, well, I guess we can maybe try to climb. And then suddenly a door opens. And there's another robot. He's big and he's round and he's offering them safety. So they go with them.
Pretty sexy.
Oh. Is that the end of the episode? Yeah, it's the end of the episode. I believe that was the end of the episode.
Yeah, it pretty much was.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want some fun facts, do you?
Yes, I do. I live for your fun facts, Gamb.
Oh. Oh, no. That's not a good reason to live.
I mean, it's a reason.
That's not a good reason to live at all.
It's a reason.
So, more things that Terry Nation had as ideas for this series. Like, this is a man with, like, crazy fucking ideas. Like, a really creative man. He had so many ideas, like sequences set in ancient Egypt, where the first Great Pyramids would be erected over the remnants of a destroyed Dalek. The planet Stygian, whose inhabitants were invisible. And the mist-shroud world of Vaporon. He eventually would reuse these ideas in an amazing episode called The Daleks' Master Plan, which is 12 episodes long, and unfortunately we don't get to watch it, even though it is an absolute... It is a great episode. So many things happen in it, and one of the episodes, like, was airing on Christmas Eve, or Christmas Day, I believe. And so their thought process behind it was, no one's going to be paying attention to the TV, so this entire episode, we're going to have no plot, we're just going to, like, basically have nothing happen, and they end up breaking the fourth wall in the end, and the Doctor looks directly at the camera and says, you too have a Merry Christmas out there, and it's lovely. But unfortunately the episode is almost entirely lost, so we're not going to watch it.
Yeah.
So many firsts in that episode as well, God. Anyway. God, what else? Oh yeah, so the Mechonoids, the thing that appears in the elevator, the weird, blobby, spherical, cool-looking thing, the Fabergé egg, they only appeared once in this story. They weren't, like, intended to, like, appear more. It was like more of a, hey, this would be neat if we could bring them back, but they had so much difficulty with the men inside them controlling them, and also the fact that they were so big they would not fit through most doors, so they were a nightmare to fucking walk around with. That's for fucking sure. Anyway, what happened in the final episode of The Chase, dear? Did they catch up?
I don't know, did they?
I don't know, you're the one fucking telling me what's going on in the story.
Oh, right. Right, that's my job. The door closes, and it's a lift apparently, so they're going up to the city, and it's very lovely and nice. But the Daleks are upset that the cave is empty, and they're not really understanding where they went, so they're like, wait, hold on. My device is going off, and it says that they're behind this wall, and we need to penetrate this wall, haha. And the crew slowly makes their way out of the elevator into this fantastical city that is totally huge and not at all a tiny, tiny model. And the big orbospheres are having a hugging contest with more boops and whips and shit, and then it tells them to enter the room by saying 0, 0, 1, or 0 stop, or something like that, and of course that's what it means. And the Doctor doesn't really like it, and he doesn't like that there's no human or animal life here. But they're like, but it's nice and it's clean and there's like a place to sleep and so on and so forth. I do love the
little character moment though when they're saying that. They're like 001 corridor stop, like whatever it is, and then Ian's like, what the hell does that mean? And then Barbara just turns to him and goes, well, it clearly means 001 corridor stop.
Yes, clearly.
Like, I love the little character moments like that.
Yes.
Oh god. Sorry, I'm just reminiscing about it because there's like so many of these character moments aren't in new Doctor Who.
It's fine. Suddenly, a man comes down from the treehouse thing that's in the room with them, and his name is Stephen Taylor. And apparently he was in a war or something, and he has a mascot panda named High Five. And there is apparently nothing on this planet except the Mechonoids, because they are, of course, on planet Mechonoid, and it was to be colonized from Earth. And they built all the robots to help colonize, but then that wound up not happening. And actually, they're all prisoners, and they're actually in a zoo where the Mechonoids can look at them through some slanted blinds. And the Daleks are ready to get into the elevator door and penetrate and go through the door to the city. And the crew is like, what do we do? And he's like, oh, we could go up to the roof and think about it. And they're like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah. So they all go up to the roof, and there's like a really, really far drop. And he's like, yeah, we're allowed up here, no guards or anything, because we can't fucking get down. And then they look at this very large spool of cable, and they're like, huh. And now the Daleks and the Big Sphere boys are in a fight, and the Daleks win. But the Doctor has forgotten his machine as they come into the room and look at the stairs and go, oh no, as everyone climbs to the roof, and it explodes and it kills a Dalek, going, I am exterminated. Woohoo! Which is hilarious. And then another Dalek is pinned by his sphere, and then Vicky is really scared about the drop, and so they blindfold her and lower her slowly, which, if I'm honest, would just scare me more.
Yeah, that would scare the shit out of... Like, if someone was like... If I was like... Because I am absolutely, definitely terrified of heights. If someone was like, oh, well, we'll just blindfold you, I'd go, fuck off. Yeah, how about you just push me off the edge instead?
Stephen, of course, is an idiot. And he's like, wait, no, I forgot High Five, and the room is on fire. So he goes back to get it. So they all drop Vicky, and she's dead.
Yep.
She's dead.
Vicky dies. Poor Vicky.
The Mechonoids go fight all the Daleks in all-out fights, and it's a battle of X-rays and fire. Mechonoids versus Daleks. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Pincers versus Pincers versus shopping wheel carts and tricycles. Whoa! And the entire building is collapsing in on itself, and there's fire. And everyone runs away from the building as it totally, absolutely collapses on itself. Very realistically.
Oh, come on.
I am gonna pick apart the things that I want to.
Don't be like that.
I'm going to be like that because that is my bit in this whole fucking podcast, Gamb. You brought me on here to do this.
What do you think they were gonna do? Destroy that beautiful model?
Yes! The BBC already destroyed everything else to make room.
Listen, the BBC...
Let me finish.
Once the show was made, they didn't give a shit about it.
Okay, so they are alive, and they're back at the TARDIS, and apparently Vicky's also alive. And we're back, and then they come back to the Dalek ship to double check if there's any Daleks, and Ian comes out pretending to be a Dalek, and everyone's like, you're a dick! And the ship is apparently entirely empty. And then Ian and Barbara kind of realize that they can get home, because the Dalek ship can take them anywhere. And Steven is apparently alive. He has like a 2-second bit where like he trips over and then a fungus kind of grabs at him. And then we cut back to Barbara and the Doctor and Ian all arguing about how there's a 50-50 chance that they'll go back to their time, and how they're not really sure, like, what's gonna happen. And then the Doctor is... Hold on. I need a sip of water. I've been talking a whole bunch. Don't mind me. Yep. The Doctor is very, very angry and talking about how dare they challenge him for not trying harder to get them home into, like, the 2 to 3 years that he's been trying and blah, blah, blah. And the Doctor refuses to help work the machine to get them home. And Barbara and Ian walk off kind of sad, and then Vicky walks up to them and says, you know, at some point you're gonna have to let him go. You know that, right? And he's like, and then he decides to try to take them home, as asked, actually. And then we see Vicky and the Doctor, after a bit, walking out of the ship, and it swoops away. And then Ian and Barbara are back home in England, and it's 2 years into the future. And they then blow up the Dalek time machine, and so no one could ever use it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they can't risk anyone else using it.
And they kind of look up into the sky and go, thank you, Doctor, thank you so much, and so on and so forth, before messing around, running around London, taking photos of themselves doing stupid things. Ian thinks he sees the TARDIS at one point, but it's just an old police box. And they jump on a bus and talk about, like, money or something, and they're like, ha 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 ha. And the Doctor and Vicky are watching them through the time television. It's very, very sad. And at this point, I kind of realized that they leave, and they leave Steven to die on the planet. And that was the end of the episode. And the next one's called The Watcher.
So, real quick, I want to add the scene where it pans out to see Vicky and the Doctor watching them, and the Doctor, like, says goodbye, like, really sad. He kind of fumbles a bit of his words, but that's not because of it wasn't because of bad acting, it's because he was legitimately sad. Because they all became really good friends over the past, like, two years that they had been doing it, and he was essentially saying goodbye to them, and it was like, oh god, that really hurt.
Yeah. You could actually feel it watching the episode and not knowing that, so...
Yeah. But yeah, so now we're just left with Vicky and the Doctor in the TARDIS. Mm-hmm. And next he'll go to a place and pick up 2 university professors, called Brian and Barbarella.
Yes.
To replace Ian and Barbara, like he did with Susan and Vicky.
Yes.
Anyway, what do you think of this episode?
Are you ready for it?
Oh, it's a 4, isn't it?
It's a 9.
Oh shit! Let's watch it right now, then. I'm kidding. I don't. I've got so many things to do.
It's a 9 because it was the type of story that I enjoyed. It's the same as the Keys of Marinus, where it was like, here's a small story, here's a small story, we're keeping going, the theme is still the same, there's little bits of things here and there.
And like, this one's ranked higher than the Keys of Marinus because A, it's got the Daleks, B, it's got, like, that emotional punch of Ian and Barbara, and
I was going to say
a rape scene. Like, an attempted rape scene.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not so much the Daleks. The Daleks don't interest me that much. Wow! I know, right?
Oh, just you wait till we get to fucking Davros, then.
Oh, boy. There's other...
That's when we get to, like, real ethical quandaries, like the literal quandary of, like, if someone pointed out a child to you and said that child grew up to be Hitler, could you kill that child? Like, that is a literal fucking... moral dilemma that they deal with on the show constantly, and it is great.
But yeah, I don't really like the Daleks that much. I think there's more interesting Doctor Who enemies, like the, were they called, like, the Ood or something?
Clearly they're not that interesting if you haven't fucking remember them.
Yeah,
it was called... the Sensorites?
No, the Ood.
Well, I just mean villains at this point in time, because there are there are more villains with depth, like the Sontarans have a bit more depth.
Well, I guess I'm going from like the Doctor Who I know, so they're obviously gonna have a little bit more interest to them. But I never liked the Daleks, even in my sort of Doctor Who that I watched. Really, they were just not. They were cool for an enemy, but I was just like, all right. their thing.
Yeah, they kind of in the new series they kind of don't have the same level of threat because like the new series suffers a lot, and they're still suffering with it. Suffers a lot from what I like to call end of the world story arc problem, and that the season finale is always big end of the world, doomsday weapon style. To the point where when they tried to do a somber ending that wasn't end of the world with the 13th Doctor, people were kind of upset, whereas I was like, fucking yes, great. Finally, they're like trying to not have doomsday weapon, because like that gets old really quickly and like it loses the urgency. To the point where the past season with the 13th Doctor, the season finale, I watched it and it feels like a fucking parody. Because it feels like they went, oh, you want a gigantic end-of-the-world threat ending? Well, here, have the stupidest fucking thing. Here's the stupidest things that we could think of. Here's, like, and here's your cliches of, like, at the last minute, someone else saves the day, and sacrifices themselves. Like, it's all these stupid cliches, and it's like, it really feels like they're wanting to do different things, but they're trying to ease people into it. And the Daleks suffered because of it, because they were the main, like, end-of-the-world threat for most of those seasons. Like, Season 1, Season 1's ending was great, because it wasn't really, like, end of the universe. It was, like, end of the world to a degree, but it was more end of the character group. Season 2, it was like, okay, you're upping the stakes a little bit too much here. It's like, okay, end of the world, and technically end of the universe, I guess, or galaxy. And then Season 3, it's like, okay, Daleks is not involved, whatever. That's a completely different can of worms. And then Season 4 is like, okay, how can we go from end of the universe? I've got it, end of reality. It's like, can you calm it down a little bit? Because you're making... The Daleks in the old series have a lot more complexities than the Daleks in the new series. Because the new series, they're more used as like, these are the Daleks, they're a big threat, they're the bad guys, they go pew pew, they want to end the universe. Whereas like, there's a lot of episodes, like, there's episodes about a Dalek civil war. That's like, when you learn about it, the Doctor's like, all the characters are like, wait, what? How the fuck can they have a civil war? Like, what the fuck is going on in their society that causes them to have a civil war? Like, a race completely hell-bent on universal ethnic cleansing. Like, how the fuck do they have infighting within themselves to the point where they're, like, committing, like, acts of war against each other? And, like, there are great things in the old series about the Daleks. The problem is the new series kind of just uses elements of it. Like, they bring Davros back in the new series, but they kind of don't really do anything with him. But they do something great with Davros in Season 9, but Season 9 is fucking
anyway.
Mediocre.
So yeah, I like this episode. I'm sad Barbara's gone. I'm a little bit sad about Ian, but not as much as Barbara. Oh my god. Because Barbara was just, like, very strong-willed and sassy. I liked her, which is nice that Vicky is pretty sassy. So I'm hoping that I get to keep liking her for a while.
Do you want to know how many episodes we get to watch with Vicky before?
Don't remind me.
Because a lot of her episodes are missing, so we only get to watch one more. And then all of the rest of her episodes are missing. Which is unfortunate, because one of them is about like a planet inhabited by a matriarchal society, which would be a fascinating thing to look back at, like how the 60s viewed women and women's rights and everything, and how that translated to it on the screen. And then, of course, the other one is the giant Dalek episode that unfortunately we're not going to watch.
Yeah.
Where so much happens in it. And then another one is them going back to fucking Troy. Like, fucking...
Are we just... Is the next episode we're going to have Vicky, and then the one after that she's gone?
Yes.
Oh, god damn it.
We don't even get to see her leave.
No!
And in fact, we don't even, like, see the next episode after she's left. It's actually a few episodes after that, unfortunately.
This hurts. This hurts the deer. This hurts
I will say,
my soul.
I'll give you the comfort in that she does have a kind of happy ending. She falls in love.
Okay, well, that's something.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. But yeah, the next episode, the Time Meddler. This is where Doctor Who starts to kind of expand its lore to a little degree. Not much, and they kind of elaborate on this more. But yeah, this is where Doctor Who starts to get a little bit more interesting with its lore. Not much, because they don't invent terms like Time Lord and everything. That doesn't get fucking invented for quite a long time still. But yeah, the Time Meddler. I bet you can assume what happens there.
They meddle with the time.
How did you know?
Lucky guess.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
The time meddler.
Time.
We're going back to 1066, motherfucker!
Woo!
You know what happened in 1066, dear?
Nope.
Seriously? No, you don't get to Google it. No, do you seriously not know what happened in 1066?
No. Not off the top of my head, no.
The Battle of Hastings.
Oh. I see.
Do you know what the Battle of Hastings is?
The Duke of Normandy and English? French?
Close enough, yeah. Okay, anyway. See you later.
Bye.